With the new year, it comes New Year's resolutions, and everybody is hitting the gym and starting new exercise routines. And I'm now joined by Dr. Jeswyn Jacob, a UPMC orthopedic care sports medicine physician, to talk more about it and the safe way to do it. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are happy to have you. So we were talking a little bit at the commercial break. Again, everybody is getting in the gym. Everybody wants to get their exercise on, especially at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So what are some of the most common injuries that you're seeing? Because people may not know how to work out, or they may be a little rusty.
Yeah. So some of the most common injuries that I see are like sprains and strains. Strains we can think of as like, having like a pulled muscle. And so these are some of the injuries that I've kind of encountered kind of beginning of the new year with people who just kind of want to start off with a good workout plan, but didn't really have a plan prior to this. But yeah.
Are you already seeing some of those injuries now?
Yes, I am. And a lot of these injuries, we kind of have a holistic approach, and we get some x-rays and kind of everything to kind of talk about what patients kind of present with.
Yeah, so what are some of the tips that you would give someone who wants to get back in the gym? It's been a little while, but you would give them these tips so they could prevent having these injuries going down the line.
Yeah, I think having a good, simple plan, being realistic about some goals, and kind of help prevent these things down the line. Doing exercises that patients really like and enjoying kind of helps them keep motivated and strong. And also kind of not neglecting on other things like nutrition, good sleep, and these all kind of help have a good combination in terms of helping prevent injury down the road.
Well, because when you say realistic, do you see most of the time the big problem is people go too hard too soon, or they just don't necessarily know what they're doing, and now you're trying to figure it out later on? Is that what the problem is?
I think it's a combination of both, and sometimes just talking it out with another person, either a personal trainer, a physician. It kind of helps really build a plan and kind of striking good and hard in terms of the way to preventing injury down the road.
Yeah, so speaking of going too hard too soon, a lot of people will get in the gym. You may even have some experienced people. They get in the gym and they just want to go for it. But how important is warming up, right? And how important is getting your body ready to be able to do whatever you are about to do for 45 minutes to an hour? What are some of those techniques that you would recommend?
Yeah, having a good dynamic like warm up prior to exercise or prior to a good workout is key. Things like going on a treadmill or a stationary bike for about 10 to 15 minutes to really warm up the muscles. That really helps, or a light jog, just to kind of warm up your body is very key and pivotal in terms of helping kind of prevent injury down the line.
Well, and we were talking about this at the commercial break. Part of this is so important because, again, you don't want to get hurt in general. But oftentimes what happens, y'all know this, what happens when you get hurt is that then that becomes another reason not to work out. So you get hurt and you're like, well, I'll see y'all next year in 2026. And so this is a way kind of to not only prevent from being hurt, but also to keep you going, And that's what I was also going to say. When you talk to these patients, is it hard for people to keep these New Year resolutions, especially when it comes to exercise? And
sometimes it is a challenge, but I think coming back to like being simplistic and realistic and kind of having a plan kind of helps with this kind of the resolution and kind of creating a good framework for onwards.
Now, what do you, in terms of suggestions or recommendations, what do you say to people who have pre-existing conditions, but they really want to start exercising, they want to get back into it, and they're making their mission to get into the gym in a consistent way in 2025?
I would say definitely seek out your physician, family physician, or sports medicine physician, and so we kind of have the training to kind of help utilize that and build a good foundation and framework in terms of exercising.
Now, how can someone determine if they're overtraining or working their body too hard? Do they just have to know their body, or is there a sign that they could be able to say, nah, you know what, I need to slow down on this a little bit? Because also, you do want to work yourself, because when you feel it, that's when you're like, okay, I know I'm going for it. So what is the sign to say, okay, maybe I need to slow it down a little bit?
Yeah, so some of the signs of overtraining are like fatigue, mood issues, sleep issues. These are some signs to kind of watch out for in terms of overtraining. Pain, that should be a good guide in terms of helping kind of gauge in terms of overtraining. So.
So when people say, you know, no pain, no game, is that just is that just a saying, or is that just?
You know, pain could you should monitor that, and you shouldn't really push through the pain. And if it's persisting, then that's time to kind of seek out your doctor for.
And so I would say, just my final question, what are some safe ways to gradually increase the intensity of workout? Because you do want to increase that, but what are the safe ways to be able to do that?
Yeah, it's a gradual process, and it depends on what you're doing in terms of cardio or like weight resistance training. Having someone kind of monitor you, or having like kind of a physical trainer in the beginning, or even talking out with physician in terms of kind of gradually climbing up to slow increments. Like for example, if you're running, like increasing a mile every week, or even if you're doing resistance training, kind of increasing the weight slowly, and you're monitoring your reps and the weight. That's kind of pivotal in terms of helping you kind of increase that intensity.
Well, this is all good and important information. We're trying to keep you safe out there and trying to keep you on your New Year's resolutions as you move through 2025. Dr. Jesmond Jacob, thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.